Okay, great. So first, for those of you, I think everyone here knows me. My name's Megan. I am a white woman in my mid-40s with long gray hair, and I'm the arts and culture director at MindsEye. So I want to tell you before, I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves, but before we do that, I want to give you a little bit of info about what we're doing here. So the whole idea is just that we're here to listen and come up with some practical solutions for some issues across the board. Lots of questions that we get, particularly from venues, every single day. So something like that. I do want to give everyone permission to make any sort of what they might perceive as a mistake. We will call you, somebody will call you out if you say some outdated terminology or something that you're not sure what it is. Give yourself permission to just say it or just ask it, and we will be polite. Oh, Vanessa's trying to get in. Sorry, yeah. Vanessa. Sorry. I moved one of my boxes and missed her in the waiting room. So everyone will be nice and friendly. We're all here to learn, so it's okay. And I will go ahead and put out the number one outdated term that we hear on a regular basis is when people say things like handicap parking. We have moved on from the word handicap. Yes, that includes parking. For whatever reason, people still say it for parking. So things like that, it's okay. I will not say this is a safe space, because I really think that is a silly sentence, because it's not up to me to know if you feel safe or not. So I will say it's a comfortable place. It's a casual place. We're all friends here, and that's all, even if you don't know each other, which I think some of you do and some of you don't. So with that, I mean, relax. We're having a conversation with our buddies. And that's it, right? Okay. So let's do some introductions. And if you're not comfortable with an introduction, that's fine too. Again, it's cool. We're all fine here. So Jackie, are you cool with telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jackie Darnell. I'm an independent living specialist at Impact Center for Independent Living in Alton, Illinois. I am blind. I am approaching my late 40s. I have brown hair and like hazel eyes, and not really exciting. And I enjoy working with people who have visual impairments of all adult ages, 18 and older, and to assist with them from learning Braille to using phones to just providing them with technology and devices and skills. So that's what I do.
Great. Angie, you want to go next?
I mean, I know I'm going to be the oldest person here. Hi, everyone. My name is Angie York. I am a white woman. I just turned 51 years old. Hate to say that. I work for Lighthouse for the Blind. I'm the programs manager, and currently we are doing half price tickets to the Fox, which we've been doing for a couple years. And I'm excited to be here and hear what everyone has to say.
Great. Kelly, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kelly Driver. I work at the Delta Gamma Center. I'm the program manager there. I work with the kids ages 3 up through high school graduation. Yeah, working with kids and families, super fun.
Great. Michael, you want to go next?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Michael Loff, and I have been with LINC for about 6 months. I was originally born in Belleville, but moved away for almost 40 years and just relocated about 6 months ago and work for LINC as an independent living advocate is the title I like us to use, as well as access technology trainer. And you can relax, Angie, because I am 62. So
I would never guess.
No. But anyway, so life is good. You got another 10 years of aches and pains before you get to where I am. So anyway, that's kind of where I am. I have a few ideas when we get around to it. What I think may be the two biggest obstacles to getting folks to come out and attend.
Awesome. And let's stay over there. How about Vanessa?
Yes. Hi. So I don't know if it's gonna echo because Michael and I's mic are on. There we go. Thank you, Michael. So yes, my name is Vanessa Reyes. I'm an independent living advocate as well here at LINC Inc. I am approaching my 30s. I am a Hispanic woman. As well, at our organization, just like Jackie's, it's actually a sister organization. We do provide support to those who are 55 and older, who are transitioning either into vision loss, so have received a diagnosis, or those who are blind, totally blind as well. Michael does a lot of assistive technology. I'm just kind of the admin side of things, but still love to kind of be a friendly face to those we meet as well, and help out with external services like information and referrals. So yeah. That's me.
Great, thanks. And that leaves Tyler, who is our sole representative from a venue. So Tyler's going to get all the answers this morning.
Is that what it is? Oh no. Okay. Hi, I'm Tyler McKenzie. I'm a white male. Just turned 32 yesterday, but I got gray seeping in everywhere in my brown hair. I'm the manager of volunteer engagement at Opera Theater of St. Louis. I will hopefully one day have my own company. I'm very interested in these topics because I want to make sure my own company is very accessible and inclusive. So
great. Thank you so much. I will tell you guys that when I first sent out these invitations, I sent out five invitations to what I considered our partners, which would be places like Lighthouse, Delta Gamma, LINC, and 39 invitations to our venues. And within an hour, I had somehow 7 people who had registered from our partners. Remember, I only invited 5 and they had already passed it along to their friends. And that's still more than the total number of people from our venues over all 4 sessions. So that's, and I will, to be fair, some people did contact me and say, I can't make it on that day. Can you hear some questions? And some of the questions that we have came from those people. But I was not surprised or shocked at all to learn that the partner organizations, the people who were blind themselves or work with people who are blind or partially sighted every day, were much more interested and involved in wanting to know the answers to these questions. So that's where hopefully we'll get some of this going and we'll get some conversation started. And again, we'll all be friends. I also really love that in this session, we have representatives for people who are anything from little bitty kids with Kelly, all the way up to 55 and older and everything in between. So this is you guys will have all the answers, I'm sure. All the world's problems will be solved in an hour and a half or less. I will say that we're at an hour and a half to make sure that everyone's lives go on going. If we don't make it that far, that's fine too. But that's where we're headed. So also, if you all can make sure that when it's getting there, that I'm paying attention to the time and just say, that's it, we're done here. Also, if anyone wants captions, they should be auto captioning right now. If you are interested, they're there. And I do have a list of questions. But before I do those questions, since Tyler is here, if there are any specific questions that anyone has, not just Tyler, but if there are any questions or comments or topics that anyone wants to head out first, I'm happy to do that. So if there's any specific questions or anything, we'll do those first. Otherwise, our number one question from our venues all of the time is, we offer audio description and no one comes. How do we get people to come? And I think honestly, that is related to every other question that we have. So Jackie, do you have any suggestions on that?
I was contemplating just trying to think of some ideas, because I was thinking social media might be a good idea. It just seems like, I don't know, I always get things popping up on Facebook, but never anything, of course, with that describes descriptive video service, but I get other events going on in the St. Louis area that pop up on my Facebook account.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know, because I was trying to think the basic, not all blind people, of course, a lot of people don't read things like newspapers.
Right.
But I was just wondering but I don't know what the fee, what it costs. I'm sure it's not cheap, especially for smaller venues, to put the information on television and radio to announce it. When how the Muni in the summer, they always have their the song that plays
Meet
and
me
what's
at
on,
the Muni.
and now it's in my head, but and of course the Fox, and maybe including in those, because those are large venues. Well, we also do descriptive video service for those, for the blind on, Mondays, and now there's another day, but something like that. I'm just trying to think of ways to reach out so that the general public would even know, because then they can inform people that, maybe their vision isn't so good. So that's the only thing I can think of. I'm not, or maybe sending it to, if my center received more information about agencies in the area of different theaters and stuff that were having descriptive video provided, then they could, I could share it with my consumers. But that was the best I could think of.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. And I love that you pointed out making sure the general public knows, because there's this weird misconception out there that it should only be targeted to people that specifically are blind and want to have audio description. We have this list of 4 people that we send it to. Well, that's great, but you have a list of 1,000 people. Probably somebody else on that list knows someone else who is blind, or knows, that sort of thing. So letting the general public know. I will tell you, and this tells me, Jackie, that I need to get you on our email list. And I will tell you that we are working on our social medias because we're stretched a bit too thin, and our social media sometimes comes fast and hard all at once instead of a slow roll, letting you know every time something is happening. It suddenly turns into, like, this weekend we have 8 events between today and Sunday. So yeah, which is way too many for us to handle, FYI. But suddenly it's this barrage of, like, here's 47 posts about these 8 things, and everybody hurry up and do them because we failed to get them out sooner, or we did post about it 3 weeks ago. But then this is the next time we post it. And I will say, for the most part, not every venue, but for the most part, all of those posts are coming from us and not from the venue. So if you're not following MindsEye, you may not know that this organization has audio description. We also send out an email every Friday with everything that we are providing audio description for. And that email kind of depends on how many events are happening that week. So if there's not a lot happening, the email might have a list for the next 3 weeks. Or if it's like this week where we have a ton of stuff this weekend, the only thing that's in the email is the stuff that's happening this weekend. So I need to make sure that all of you are on that list so you can share that with whoever you want to. I will say, one, it can be a lot. A lot of times when we used to have all of our venue contacts on that list, and immediately they started unsubscribing because it's every Friday they get a list, and especially if they're out of season or things like that. The other thing is, a lot of times people will just forward that email, which is great. Forward the email. There's an unsubscribe button at the bottom, and anyone that you forward it to is actually unsubscribing you from the email list if you forward it. And that happened to me on multiple times. I would go into our system and be like, how am I unsubscribed from my own list? And it's because I had forwarded it to 20 people, and one of those 20 people had unsubscribed from me and in reality had unsubscribed me. So that's a good rule too, is to take off. You can actually just edit that. You can just delete that line, that unsubscribe line. But I think Angie's been unsubscribed probably at least 20 times. And then oftentimes I'll go back in and be like, if Angie really wants to be unsubscribed, she can tell me unsubscribe. So Angie is constantly unsubscribed from our list. Social media is one that we hope to continue getting better at on our end. The other thing is for us, having the time to go in, sometimes, you know, maybe Opera Theater will make a post about just, here's the opera that's happening today. For us to go in as MindsEye and make a comment on that post, audio description is available today. And oftentimes what that does is that says their social media person says, oh yeah, we should have said audio description is available today. And so then they'll start adding those into that post. But we don't always do that. So that's something that we should definitely get better at, as well as making sure that our posts are timely. Does anybody else have any big picture thoughts on, in general, get people to come there? I know Michael does.
Oh yeah, Michael does. Yeah. So I'll throw out a few ideas. First one is giving a little bit of notice if an event's happening this weekend and it just goes out on Friday and it's that night, it just may not be enough notice, especially if they're using like the ATS, the transportation system. There has to be like 2-day notice to even try to set up rides for those events. So I think transportation is going to be one of your number one issues. I have a few thoughts on that. But before I go there, first off, I know you have, I assume most people are using your Amazon app, and it has a way to push notifications, although I think it just plays a sound. So people may not even know that it's saying, hey, here's a notification for you. But that's one thought. If there's a way to update that app to actually give notifications of upcoming events. But right, I think the other thing is to get the email list going, and so that all the persons that might even be interested in it, you know, are on that email list. Because I'm not getting those announcements. I saw it, you know, initially going through the website. So that's going to be the key, is letting people know of the events with hopefully a couple-day notice so that they can make arrangements. Now let's go back to transportation, because I would argue that's going to be your number one issue. I see it all the time in the work that we do here, trying to get people into the office, or, you know, trying to get out to meet them. So how do we address that? That's a big issue. We've been working a lot with ATS and trying to get things improved. We've got expansion now where they're covering much more. They say all of St. Clair County. I'm not really sure it's all of it, but so they're covering a much larger area. But the other issue, I saw one of your other questions had to do with either a discount or having a partner or someone that, you know, can bring someone to the event. Because I'll be honest with you, you know, I went to St. Louis Cardinal games, but I would not feel comfortable at this point maybe doing that by myself. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but with a little bit of hearing loss and just trying to navigate, and, you know, and this varies between the different venues as to the level of assistance you can get in navigating that. So I think either having a system where, you know, folks can, either they want someone to assist them, you know, that they can do that. Like you said, you've got Call a Ride in Missouri, or ATS, you know, to kind of go to the SWIC offices a little bit in Illinois. So trying to get that in place, or having a system for transportation where we either set up some kind of shuttles, maybe reaching out and saying, hey, if we have an event, can we rig up something that might go through and pick up a few different people throughout Illinois and then take them there to St. Louis, if that's an option, if that's viable. Or, you know, if there's particular persons that would be interested in, I don't know if chaperone's the right word, or chauffeur or something, because transportation is going to be your number one issue. There's just no doubt in my mind. Now, in addition to that, like I said, well, I've kind of mentioned, so if the people feel comfortable navigating it, they just may not want to take that on by themselves without assistance. So those would be kind of my big three things. I think, yeah, getting that email list out, social media is good. It's just a way to reach other people, make them aware of it. And I go, oh, I got a friend that's blind, because it might even bring you new folks into MindsEye for services. But I think, yes, we have to reach out to everyone and let folks know that these services are available, because that's what I suspect is the number one issue. Most people just don't know these events are taking place. That certainly would be the case with me. I certainly would have maybe attended, one of the Cardinals games or something, had I known when it was taking place. So there's my big picture of items. I'll cover maybe a few more specifics when we get to specific questions, but I really think looking at transportation and just getting everyone on that email list or changing it somehow so that unsubscribe, so people are forwarding it, that their own name is not being removed from the list. Maybe there's something in the software for that to use email to make that happen.
Yeah.
But those are
that's a
my
good
big
point.
three, transportation and just awareness of the events with a little bit of notice. I've done this stuff for about 25 years. My experience has been about 5 days is a good point, because if you get too far in advance, like I said, people don't remember it. If it's too close, it's not enough. But I found that 3 to 5 day window advance notice is good so that people can make plans for it. So I'll stop there.
No, that's great, Michael. And Vanessa put in the chat, just for, I think most of you are Missouri people, so ATS is for Illinois what Colorado is for Missouri. So it's the same sort of similar situation. I will say transportation is the number one thing that we hear. It's one of the things that we hear on a very regular basis. I would have gone to XYZ, but how was I going to get there? And we even have particularly, I was going to say young people, but I guess it's not always young people, who are very familiar with the public transportation system and are very good at it and are, don't mind taking it. But here's something that I think is a lot of people really don't understand. It takes a long time. It takes a long time to get from point A to point B on public transportation. I recently, actually, here's an example for you, Tyler. This was at Opera Theater. I was coming from one event to another, and sometimes, and I don't like to do this, but this person I know personally, I'll pick somebody up and take them if I'm working the event and they're going to the event. But I was coming from a different event, couldn't happen. And I just said, I'll meet you there. And it would have taken me 15 minutes from his apartment to Opera Theater, or to Loretto Hilton for a festival season for Opera Theater, but I could not pick him up. He said, no problem, I will come myself. It took him an hour and 15 minutes on public transportation to get there, with two buses plus a walk to get there. And then he left at intermission because of the difference it was going to take him to get home. It made more sense for him to leave at intermission because of the bus schedule and so he missed the whole thing. And something else, it's so infuriating to me how often people leave at intermission for things, for call a ride. Call a ride is only going to pick me up after, they won't pick me up after this time. And this show doesn't end till this time. And sometimes, please, venues, please put the runtime of your show on your website. Sometimes people don't know that they are going to miss the end of a show. And they get there and it's intermission and they realize there's still an hour and a half left and they can no longer get home. Because they've set up call a ride for as late as they can, or they've set up call a ride for when they thought it was going to be. And they have to, they might be, this has happened to us, they might be standing outside Enterprise for 45 minutes because they decided to leave at intermission, went outside and then waited for call a ride to get them for 45 minutes and missed the whole end of one particular one was, what's the Christmas orchestra one? Not Mannheim Steamroller, but the other one. And they missed, those are very expensive tickets and they missed the whole second half. It's something that happens pretty regularly. So remember, I think sometimes people think, okay, you know, we have a bus stop that's close to us, so that's fine, they can just take the bus. I really encourage every venue to figure out really what that means. Just take the bus. Does the bus only show up every hour? Does that mean that they're going to be there an hour before, or they're going to show up 5 minutes before it starts? What does that mean? And Tyler, this actually came up just a couple days ago. There was a panel discussion for New Works. If I'll just put a plug out there for Opera Theater's New Works Collective, that's going to be in March. Because it was not about accessibility for people with disabilities. It was about accessibility for people that lived in North St. Louis. There's a composer who was from North St. Louis, and he wanted, you know, folks from his neighborhood to be able to get to his opera. And how are they going to get there? Was a question. So it's not specifically a disability equity question. It's an equity question for a lot of people. So just being aware of transportation, and shuttles are really interesting. And I think venues in particular, immediately shut down the idea of a shuttle. It costs too much. We don't have a van. How are we going to make this work? You know, we're not going to pay somebody to do that. But there might be ways. We don't have anyone from society on this call, but maybe somebody else, maybe one of your other organizations have this option. Does anyone have a van or a bus that maybe they can partner with that venue on that day? And it might not be go pick people up. It might be everybody meets at Lighthouse or at MSB, the Missouri School for the Blind, or at whatever. You get to one location, and whoever is there at that time can get on this shuttle. So maybe it's a one-time, one event situation, but that can make a huge difference. Now, remember, they're still going to have to get to that one location from wherever they are. So, but transportation is huge. And one thing that Michael touched on, and it was, I think, part of that, it was another question, but we'll go ahead and hit this one too. What if I have someone who will drive me? But I would have come by myself, but I can't drive myself. But now I have to pay for my ticket. And because I'm asking someone to take me, I'm paying for their ticket, and it's very expensive. Tickets in general are the number two. The price of tickets, that's the number two thing that we hear is, I would love to go, but the tickets are $80 and I have to pay for both of us. There are some places that have, they call them different things. Many places call them a companion ticket. I would be leery to get real into the nitty gritty of what you consider a companion. It does get a little hairy. Some places say you have to have like maybe one of you guys from independent living centers can help me out with the terminology here, but sometimes people will say like, you have to have a caregiver. It has to be this, it has to be that. I think the more important thing here is, if you would have come by yourself, but you have to have somebody bring you, and that person wasn't going to come, you're paying for 2 tickets that you wouldn't have to. And in some places that might mean just a discount. That might be sometimes that person is free. However that works, considering that as a way. And there are places in St. Louis that do have companion tickets. There are places across the country that have companion tickets of different ways. I will give you a bad example though that I just heard, and this was not local. This was actually someone in the UK, because I immediately thought, oh, this is a great idea, until he told the story and was like, oh, this is a terrible idea. He was really excited. He is blind, and there was a theater that had these companion type tickets. They called them something else. And we'll pretend like it was dollars, okay? Because the story was in pounds. I don't know what the conversion is. Their normal ticket was $75 per person. Per ticket was $75. And they had put it on their website with the ticketing, which sounds great because, oh yeah, I don't have to do anything special. I just go to the website, here's a ticket, and there is an option that were 2 tickets for $25, which is a huge difference, right? 1 ticket for $75, 2 tickets for $25. And it says it's for, companion tickets for for this specific reason. And they had a limited number because they don't want to lose all this money. Problem was anyone could click on that and purchase the 2 for $25. And he went to get his ticket and they were out, they said, sorry, no more. So he called and said, hey, I'm blind. Someone is driving me. How do I get these $25 tickets? And they immediately the venue knew that this was a problem, that they could not do this way, because they said, yeah, we're out. And it has become very obvious that the majority of these people were just people that saw that there were 2 tickets for $25. And we didn't have a plan in place to ask or to make any sort of arrangements on what this is. So the idea was great, 2 tickets for a discounted amount, but there was no follow-up on how it happened. And he actually didn't get to go to the show because of that. So he ended up having another barrier access. Angie's got her hand up. So go ahead.
It's interesting that you're bringing this up. So we offer 2 half-price tickets to the Fox Theater. We partner with them. The Lighthouse is offering the half-price tickets. It is not the Fox doing it. However, my name is on the Fox website under the ADA section. And I'm going to knock wood, lucky, because I worry about that. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and we have a good group of people that have heard about it and like it. And so I know the people for the most part, that are calling me. But I don't require. So what the Lighthouse requires is that for someone that is considered legally blind and their companion, they can buy 2 half-price tickets. I don't ask you to provide paperwork. And so somebody asked me just the other day, how do you know people aren't just, because people will, of course, like you said, try to scam you. And again, I'm going to knock wood. I don't think I've had to run into that yet, but what do you do if that happens? And then make people run through
and have another
doctor's letter.
Yeah, have another barrier to access.
Right.
And make it more complicated.
Also, I wonder if, so Se-Yoon Choi works for the Lighthouse, and he has a job of he works part-time, different venues to see, to start partnerships with them and see how accessible they are for folks that are blind. And I wonder if something he could do is start talking to them, approaching venues about the companion tickets. I just was writing that down when you were saying that, and I'll talk to him about that. Where they do the discounts, because we can't have a budget for every venue, unfortunately.
And that's a great point, and that would be great for Se-Yoon, for those of you who know Se-Yoon. I oftentimes, and it's also the manpower or the Angie power of it. If every venue that we worked with, we just said, oh, maybe we just have Lighthouse get you tickets. Well, first of all, it would cost you $1 bazillion that you can't afford. But also it would cost you $1 bazillion hours of, Angie trying to take care of, we work with 35 different venues in St. Louis. So Angie can't take care of getting tickets for 35 different people. And we do occasionally have venues that will say very nonchalantly, like, oh, well, we didn't know that you needed tickets. Like, we could have just given you some tickets. And like, well, the season's over. Well, thanks for pointing that out now. Or like, but we did say we could use some ticket, like, make it happen. And we're missing those connections.
I like that. I'm going to ask Se-Yoon to do that too, to ask him if tickets or venues can just donate a certain amount of ticket. I guess donate it from them. Who would they donate to though? Because then it becomes the same thing. Like when Hamilton was out, I actually said to myself, I will never sell those tickets again because I couldn't do my job. It was like I had a Metro tics, it was crazy because everyone wanted to go.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like people say, well, MindsEye could do that. Well, MindsEye could do a lot of things if we had about 12 more employees.
You're already overworked with
it's just, And I will say sometimes venues will give us things like a couple tickets, like we'll get a pair of tickets. We have also bought season tickets before. We've bought a pair of season tickets. We did this with Opera Theater a couple seasons ago. We've done it with the Muni. We've done a couple places where we buy season tickets and then we just have a pair of tickets. And then amazingly, we have these tickets that somehow we can't get rid of. Or we have tickets, there's this misconception that one, we always have tickets for free, which is almost never the case. We almost always have purchased those tickets, and that if they don't use the ticket, it's fine because they got them for free. So oftentimes we'll have these tickets that we spent, you know, $100 on 2 tickets, and then someone says they'll go and then they don't show up. And that's why we stopped doing it. We stopped even, you know, because we don't have the budget for that sort of thing. And then we're asking the wrong people, or it's the same 10 people who are in our system who always want to go to something. And then it, you know, kind of that rumor, that word through the grapevine that comes back with like, oh, you only get tickets if you know someone at MindsEye. I'm like, you know what? Not worth it. So there has to be a better way for tickets to be affordable. I think that's something else that a lot of people don't realize. The number of people, particularly in St. Louis, who have disabilities, the amount of money, the salaries that they make or don't make is often lower, oftentimes at the poverty level. So they're not going to go out and buy $40 in tickets or $80 in tickets for something, and then spend 2 hours on a bus to get there. It's not something that happens all of the time. And even we have lots of events that are free. I just want to point that out too. There are lots, I think half of the events that we're doing this weekend are free events. But we've failed to make sure that everyone knows that they're out there, or sometimes people know, but we fail to tell them that they're free, or there's no transportation to them, or, you know, XYZ.
I also think that just because you build it does not mean they will come.
Yes. Can you please shout that from the rooftops? That is such a myth. People all the time are like, well, we offered this audio description and no one showed up. Well, did anyone know aside from the people that MindsEye told? Who did you tell? And also, they might not want to come to your show. I mean, maybe it's not a popular show. Maybe it's, you know, it's not for kids, and you only told the organizations like Delta Gamma, and you're like, oh, this is for, you know, 18 plus, and we had that happen. I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense. This is not a children's show. So things like that. That is such a lie. If you build it, they will come. No.
Yeah.
No, just because you have it, people aren't going to suddenly just appear in your theater or your whatever cultural institution.
I'll also ask Sayun to approach organizations like for the Fox Theater, because we do have price organizations like Service Club for the Blind, Missouri School for the Blind will call and purchase tickets through me. But it would be nice if those organizations can call directly, whatever, you know, without them advertising it to the public, but by word of mouth, we could say, listen, this is what's going on. They offer half price tickets to groups of this much or more. You can call someone there directly. So I'll ask him to look into that.
Yeah. Something that makes there have to be ways to make it less work for everyone that still works. We don't need to make things super complicated or for everyone to have more on their plate. And that's something that a lot of the venues tell us. You're already asking us for a lot of stuff. And that's things that happen on our end when we're already asking for a script and we're asking for a preview and we're asking for all of these things. And then they say, oh, it's one more thing. How much, you know, it's so much work. Like, well, not really, but you know, they are extra things that we're putting on these venues. Let's see, we're at 10:15, so we're okay. Michael, did you have something else that you wanted to add about that?
Well, I don't know, it'd be more work than again for the venues. The ideal scenario would be that it's in the process for purchasing the ticket, where there'd be a checkbox to say, allow me to bring someone to assist me or what have you, and that would have the 25 or whatever unique discount was. But again, that's something, that you're asking the venue. And of course, that comes down to the person who codes the actual website for the ticket purchases. But that would be the ideal scenario, would be, they could just check a box that they need that and get that discounted ticket to bring someone to assist them. That way they're still getting at least the full price for the first one. They're not having the scenario of having discount tickets being gobbled up by people that just see that discount.
Right.
But,
Something else that we have, and I will tell you that this is actually in our contract and it doesn't work all that well. A couple different things. Some venues will have the same event multiple times. So say you have a show that is going on for 2 weeks, and we'll have audio description one of those days. Oftentimes what will happen is they'll offer special discounts on other days. So it might be, we're there on Thursdays and they offer a discount for the Tuesday performances. We ask that those venues offer a similar discount for the people who are going to audio description on those days, because what you're asking is for them to make a choice between a day that is more accessible for their pocketbook or more accessible for them to experience. So you're asking for a choice when instead they should be able to do both of those things. So what we have asked is, hey, make that discount available. That doesn't mean you have to put it out there now that, also on Thursdays, this discount's available. Maybe you just give us a discount code. So when someone registers or someone says, hey, I'd like to go to this, either there's a discount code just out in the world that says, it's for audio description, or we email them a code. So when they purchase their tickets, they're getting that, 20% off or whatever it is. So it's not necessarily specifically a discount that you've created, because some of these places are just like, oh, now you're going to ask us for a discount on top of this. Well, it's the same discount that you're giving other people on a different day. So can you make that discount available on the day that we're providing description? It's not like we're doing description every day and we're asking for an additional discount. And we've had limited success with that. There's, I think, only one venue currently who has made that happen for us. And again, that is something that we have now included in our contract, that we're asking for that discount. It doesn't always work that way. All right. So we've actually hit a lot of these questions. Oh, one other thing I was going to say about this first question is, as far as, we're still on the first question, but we're answering all the questions at one time. As far as, hey, no one ever shows up, maybe offering some other incentives. Maybe you can't give a discount. Maybe you can't have a shuttle, but maybe you can do other things. Like there are lots of places around the country that have things that, I don't care for this name, but they have things like touch tours. I would call them more like insight tours or touch tables. Opera Theater has actually been doing touch tables, which are great for everyone. But the idea of, before the show starts, you have this extra bit that's available for you. And it might be, and the touch tours look very different at lots of different places. And this is a little hint for later down the line, that we are going to have someone available to talk to our venues about making touch tours and how that works. But it might be something where they actually have tactile elements that they can feel. I went to a touch tour in Chicago that was great, because not only did it had some costumes, yeah, but in reality, it wasn't much of a touch tour. But the super cool thing was we sat down in the audience before the show starts, and it was the Who's Tommy at the Goodman Theater. And all the main actors came out in their street clothes. It was an hour before the show started. It was a short amount of time, but each one just said, this is what I look like. This is what I do. This is what my costume is. And they sang one line of what they sounded like, and if they had an accent that was different than their actual real life accent, this is what I sound like on stage. And it was really amazing, the difference that could make. I was actually there. It's a whole other thing that I could tell you many stories about at a different time. I was there with the American Council of the Blind conference convention. So I was the sighted person among, I think, 30 plus people who are blind at this production, all listening to the audio description. But even as a sighted person, I thought this was an amazing experience, and it took very little of their time to be out there and just to say a few lines. And really, we didn't go up on stage, which a lot of people, that they used to do that pre-pandemic. They would have these insight tours where you walked around the stage. We didn't do anything like that, but just having those voices was really helpful. And hey, it's 2023. You don't have to do that live and in person if that's not something that's available. We can very easily record all of those things. MindsEye is also a radio station, FYI. So we have recording equipment. And also, it's 2023. You all have phones. You can hold a phone up and say, this is my name. This is the character I play. This is what I look like. Here's what my accent sounds like. Here's a line of what I sound like when I sing. And it makes a really big difference. So maybe adding some of those sort of other incentives could be really helpful. And then also, making that a promo, can we edit some of that down and turn that into a promo? So you have basically an advertisement that's really targeted directly to people who are blind or partially sighted, but can be used for anyone. And you can do whatever you want to with it. So you put it on that social media that's out there. If you are a venue that's lucky enough to have, actual TV ads or radio ads, you put those out there. Hey, again, we're a radio station. We put those on our radio for our broadcast listeners. It doesn't have to be something that's super big and complicated, but I think could be really interesting and really helpful. I'm interested to know if Jackie or Michael have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I did actually, because I think someone had mentioned that, one of my consumers had mentioned that, well, why aren't some of the events just on the radio so that we can listen to those? But then that could conflict with the venue that wants you there. So at least they get the price of a ticket, or they're assuming they're providing the service because there's a demand and interest. So yeah, that's a real touchy area. Now, because I'm a dreamer, I guess I just still wonder if we could ever, develop some kind of rapport with ATS where we have, they have to come to a general location, like they have to make it to to St. Louis, and then we would have a shuttle that would take everyone from there, ultimately to the venue. There you go. She's fixing my video so you can see me. That's good. So yeah, that would be my concern, if that at all possible, where events could be aired on the radio, or would they consider that counter to the whole point of, the point is to get you here and to sell us a ticket or two, or get you to become a regular patron of our events.
I think one problem that we have there too, and Tyler might be able to say more about this, is equity issues, and not equity as in equality issues, but as in actors' equity issues. And I know with the symphony, the same thing. Most of those organizations are not allowed to be broadcast, or they're allowed to be broadcast, for one night, for one thing. Now, particularly during the pandemic, but some since then, there have been some where there have been virtual listings available that we have described also. So there's something like that. But Tyler, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So there are some shows that we just can't put out certain information on. For example, one of our shows that has now taken off and is in national opera houses across the country, we could not put out the libretto when it made its world premiere because that's copyrighted information, and they want to be able to make sure they can make their living off of it. And if it's provided as free accessible information in some capacity, then, yeah. So it does get very tricky, especially when, like you said, equity as far as the performers, the creators of the productions, things like that comes into play.
I would say it's also tricky there because it's tricky for on the venue side because of the ADA. Things like us as an audio describer or as an ASL interpreter or as a live captioner, we are allowed to have that information. So we are allowed to have the libretto. We're not allowed to share it. So, we can't put it out there and they can't put it out there. So it's not something like we can't have a radio broadcast, but we can have it to prepare with, just to make that clear.
I was wondering if they could ever have where, you would just have to pay for it. So there could be something set up, and, if I wasn't able to make it to a venue, which I enjoy attending in person when I can, but if there could ever be something, which it would take a lot, that would probably take, and it would be a national thing where, I'll just have to purchase a little pricier ticket, but they'll let me have this length of time to listen to it.
I would say that is more available now than it was 3 years ago. A lot of places, the Met is one of those places that had it available. And actually, believe it or not, there are a lot of places in the UK who obviously does not have an Americans with Disabilities Act, but they do have a lot of venues that do virtual performances, that it's basically was a recorded performance while it was happening, and or it was done specifically for that purpose, that are available online. Locally, Prism Performing Arts, we do description for their performances, and those are available online for free. Opera Theater of St. Louis, I don't know if it's still on there, but their Opera on the Go, which is their abridged versions for schools, those are available online for free for teachers, educators. So there are some available out there, but yeah, it's a big process. It's a big thing. We were really hoping that a lot of the organizations would keep doing that during after the pandemic was over. We did Shakespeare Festival. And a lot of those were only available for a certain amount of time. So either you paid for, you bought a ticket, or it was free, but it was only available for X number of days. And that goes back to actors equity and that sort of thing, those rules. But hopefully that is something that in the future will continue to happen, and continue to ask for those things so that people know that that's something that is wanted. And yes, there will always be people that will say, no, we want people here in the venue, and we want cheeks in the seats, as they say. But you never heard that one, cheeks in the seats. However, I think it was pretty eye-opening for a lot of places to realize we weren't accessible before, and we put this online, and wow, it's so accessible now, and then take it away. Like, I mean, pretty heart-wrenching in some of those scenarios. We're like, oh, we were all together, we were all able to experience this in a similar way, and then never mind, it's not for you anymore. So
And if you don't
Yeah,
mind,
and I enjoy the idea of being able to go to an event and have, the actors speak, have that extra. I wasn't at the American Council of the Blind event. That would have been interesting. I do wish it could become more pre-pandemic though, because there was one play, and it wasn't at a large venue, but I just remember I think it was it was several years ago, but I was able to go backstage. It was Little Shop of Horrors. And that was so fun to be able to feel the different sizes of that plant and the different, they let me check out the costumes and different things on the stage. And that was so fun, because that is one that it is different when you can find out how the plant grows.
And stay tuned on that, because I'm hoping to, particularly this year, 2024, to make a big, hard push for a lot of our venues to add some insight tours and do some of those things. And I will say real quick, one more thing about this. Looking Glass Playhouse, who's a very small community theater, actually did something that was super cool. And I wish all of our venues did this. And it was just a little social media thing, and it was not for us. But I said, oh my gosh, everyone should be doing this. It was a little social media video that they made in the green room before a show. And someone walked around with their phone and said, shake hands with me like you're in character. And so every time, the person would immediately go into their accent or their mannerisms, or exactly what they would be in character. And oftentimes, for whatever reason, without it being about audio description or for people who are blind, they might even describe what they were wearing. Sometimes they weren't wearing their costumes, so they would say, I normally wear XYZ. And I was like, this is amazing. It's so simple. And now we've met every single character in their voice for $0. It took 5 minutes and was really great. I mean, again, it's not the same as being there, but it was really easy and really great. So Tyler, were you going to add something to that too?
Yeah, I was gonna go back to the free, the accessible performances online. I know in the opera world, there's a European website called Opera Vision that has a lot of newer productions. We're talking 22, 23 productions of works, and it's classic operas, it's new compositions, all of it. That they are going to continue doing this. This has been an effort that they're going to just keep alive after the pandemic. As if we are past it and whatever, that is going to be a. But yeah, so it's an initiative that they have come together. I think there's like 15 different opera houses that are participating in it, and they have pretty much at least one new one per month. So there are European options that we can access online that are free. Or at least in some of the performing arts fields.
Great. I have not checked that out, so I will look for that also.
We use it for our opera movie club and
opera movie club. Fun.
Yeah. So some of the performances can be a bit odd, but they are fun. So
I keep trying to convince Opera Theater of St. Louis that there should be an opera, like a cartoon club, because that was my first introduction to opera, was like Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and opera music. Haven't quite sold them on doing the cartoon operas yet, but
with
as a
Barber
cartoon
Seville this year, perfect opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, come on, Barber Seville. I mean, that was probably the first opera that I knew because of Bugs Bunny doing those. So what are some of our other questions? We talked about how to know that the events are available. We talked about considering a discount for companions and transportation and shuttles. We talked about good deals on ticket prices on the wrong day. Oh, okay, here's one. And when I typed this one out, I was actually just going to type, can you make it easier? But I was afraid that the venues would think, can you make it easier on them? Because a lot of our complaints come from people who are trying to they just want to go to this thing. And somehow, they got to go through 42 clicks on the website, or they have to call someone specifically, or they have to add, there are all these extra steps they have to do just to get the audio description. And sometimes, there's not a way around that, because you might still have to come to the guest services window to pick up a headset. And we are, for things like our sporting events, we are working around that, in that we're using an app called Live Voice. So you can use your own phone. You don't even have to find us anymore. You don't have to, if you're in Busch Stadium at gate 1, you don't have to walk all the way around the stadium to gate 4 or 3 or whatever to pick up a headset and then go back to your seat and then come back to us. You just use your own phone. But in the theater worlds, we are not using that because have you ever been to a theater when there's 20 people with their phones on? Even for us with the idea, it's not even, people use their phones for captions as well. And then they're actually holding up their phone and it becomes very confusing to an usher. Like, what is this person doing? With audio description, you don't even need that. Your phone can be in your pocket. However, it's not very popular when I ask our theatrical venues, hey, can they use their own phone to listen to this audio description? So there are still, barriers to access. You still have to come to guest services and pick up your headset. But things like, how can we make it easier from start to finish to access the services? Do I have to go to a separate part on your website to order a ticket because I want to use audio description? We have one venue in particular who says that you have to call them. You can't use their website if you want audio description. Are you going to ask us to sit in a different seat because I want audio description, which I have not even really gone down the Americans with Disabilities Act says you can't do X, Y, and Z. I can if you all want me to, but which I do tell our venues, no, you can't tell someone because they're using this service that they have to sit in this seat. You might be able to say, there might be static in the seat that you've chosen. Do you want to sit somewhere else? This is an area that might work better, but you can't say this is where we're seating you, because that's against the law. But how can we make it more streamlined? How can we get rid of some of those in-between steps? So often people just tell us, I just want to go to the website, buy my tickets, show up, everything works, and that's the end. So are there any ideas on how we eliminate things here? And I think maybe the number one thing is maybe education. Educating venues that they can't do X, Y, or Z, or that they don't need to know X, Y, or Z. And you don't need to ask, are you blind? Is that why you want audio description? Not your business. If you see somebody come up to a window and ask for a headset and you think they don't look blind, you can't tell them, no, you can't use audio description. It's crazy things like that. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I did want to mention, since you brought up the website accessing, that could be a challenge for a lot of your potential patrons is navigating that, because A, do they have the skills to do an online purchase of tickets? And B, even if they have the skills, is their ticket purchasing process accessible?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. So if you have 35, I'm confident that some of those 35 really aren't designed as they should be. So then that begs the question, do you want to promote that where there's a phone number people could just call and say, I'll purchase my tickets, and they either have a will call window and they go get their tickets and they're ready to go. But that is a challenge, helping people navigate to purchasing online.
Agreed. Kelly, do you want to add something to that?
Mine was more of a question. When someone purchases a ticket and they say they want audio description, do you get notified, or does MindsEye get notified? Follow up and let them know more about the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we ask, as in MindsEye asks, if anyone who's going to go to one of our events with audio description, that they let us know. We have a form online that they can fill out, or they can send me an email that says they're coming to this thing. They are not required to let us know. But we do, when we send out our email and on our Facebook page, we have a form that actually has every event. I just updated it through April of next year, so it's a little bit behind, but they can actually choose they can go in one time and choose every event that they plan to go to for the year if they want to. And then I send out an email before every single event that is very specific to that event, that has we are expecting to see you at this venue. The show starts at this time. This is what it is. And then I also add a know before you go specific to that venue that has things like very specific instructions from the the closest bus station, Metrolink station, including like which side of the street the sidewalk is on. Where are the accessible bathrooms in that venue? I used to include the service animal policy, even though the service animal policy should be the same in every venue. Service animals are welcome. But I really only add that if the venue suggests, let us know if you have a service animal when you purchase your ticket, so we can sit you in a place that's appropriate for your service animal, and things like that. So I personally send out that email that has very specific instructions. Now, they don't have to do that. They may have, for once, they might have found out from a venue that that audio description will be available. They might get a know before you go sort of thing from the venue about their ticket, but not specifically about audio description. We do, some of our venues who know someone is using our service will email and say, hey, just so you know, we found out this person is coming, and we'll try to work it out that way. I would say 98% of the people who are going to these things have found out from us, not from their venue. They found out from us or someone that we've told, one of our partnering organizations. And that's how we know. Like when we do half price Cardinals tickets with Angie gets the tickets, then she sends me an email that says, please let this person know about the information. So we do send out an email to every person before it happens, if that makes sense. Yeah, Angie. You're still muted, Angie.
Sorry about that. Are you guys doing the description for the Fox? I should know this.
So we do description for the Fox only when their in-house describers are not available.
Okay.
And some of those times are not times that you have tickets for, because those were tickets, those were times when someone asked for a reasonable accommodation that was not on their list. Like we just picked up the Christmas Cirque du Soleil event, which I don't think is on your list.
No.
That was because they had a request for reasonable accommodation. So, and their regular describer is not available. So like this season, we only have 3 dates with the Fox where we're the describers.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I don't send you anything and say, will you send? And I thought, should I be? How?
Yeah.
Sometimes I have people ask, I had asked a question typing. How many days in advance of a show do you, just so I can tell people?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I'm like, she'll send it.
That's a great question. I try to send it out about 4 days in advance, or depending on, I usually don't work Friday, so I try to send it out like Monday or Tuesday if it's for the weekend. Because I want to make sure that they get them. Now I do occasionally, especially with sporting events, sometimes get a little bit behind on those. I know I did for sure have one Cardinals game where I was sending it out the day before and like, sorry everyone, and actually thought that I could get away with it because every person on the list was someone who had been to a Cardinals game using audio description, and that was the day someone emailed me and was like, why don't I have this information?
It was probably that same person that was like, I don't have it yet.
And which is, I mean, I guess it was good because he knew that I should be sending him an email, and I think
and I could have given the impression that you were going to send it when he bought the ticket, which was weeks in advance.
Yeah, and
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't send them that far because of the same thing that Michael said earlier. Some, people are going to lose that email or forget, because that specific information of, this is where to pick up your headset. I wouldn't want to be looking for an email from 3 weeks ago. Like, okay, where am I supposed to go pick up my headset? So I do those just a few days in advance. And then also if there's anything specific that comes up in that time, like there's construction in front of the building or, that sort of thing, we do change that sort of information.
Great, thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask with the Cardinals games, is it limited to the coverage of Busch Stadium? So you have to use those seats? And I only say that just because I was a cheapskate, or because the Cardinals weren't playing so well this year. I was able to get tickets for like $10 or even $6.
Michael, I bought some $10 tickets as well, so don't feel bad.
Right. So can I get the description from there?
Yes. So now, and it was not like this last season. So if you went, well, I should say, I guess now the season before last, now that this season is over. But this season and going forward, we're using the Live Voice app. So in reality, if you had the secret code and you were sitting at your house, you could listen to it. But we don't give you that secret code because of their contracts with their radio announcers and their television announcers. But if you are in the building, you don't know what the secret code is. It doesn't matter, because if you have on your location on that app, if you allow it to have your location, when you get actually about a block from Busch Stadium, to be honest with you, you could be sitting outside. When you get to Busch Stadium and you open the Live Voice app, that will pop up on the front page of the app as, you know, Cardinals versus Pirates or something. And then you can just click on that and listen to it. Now, if you are a person who doesn't want to have your location on, you don't want to share your location, you can get that secret, not so secret code from us. You have to actually physically come to our location though, which is right next to a gate. And then we can either tell you that code, or there's a QR code that you can scan to use it.
And then what is the delay? Because I was listening to
Oh.
KMOX, it was about 10 seconds
No,
behind.
so this is the number one reason that we do audio description for sporting events, is because of that delay. The delay is about 1 second. So
Nice.
it's not as good as when we use our own headsets. There's no delay on those. But the range is way, way, way smaller. You have to be sitting in our section. So, well, not in our section, but you have to, we can't say anywhere in the stadium. So the delay is much, much, much shorter. Because yeah, if you've ever listened to the radio while you're at a ball game, they're announcing the pitch and the fireworks already going off. It's already a home run. So it's not at all the same. So, and we use that for, we'll be using it for Blues games. We use that for every city SC, the soccer games. We also use it for mostly anything that's outdoors that people are going to have, are going to be allowed to have their phones on for anyway. So anything that we can kind of get away with, we use the Live Voice app.
Megan,
Yes.
I have another question. You had said that because of the ADA, you can't sell tickets in a particular section or seats.
You can't force them to sit in those particular section or seats.
Okay, so for the Cardinal tickets,
Yeah.
is it different if you're offering half price?
You can, here's the difference. You can say we have half price tickets and they are in this section, and they are for audio description. You can also buy a full price ticket anywhere in the stadium that you want to.
Gotcha. Okay, because I was going to say they have it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have the option to sit anywhere they want to.
Gotcha.
And we have one venue in particular that, you know, someone might come to guest services to get a device or get a, you know, whatever. And the lovely people at guest services say, oh, this person is blind, I'm going to switch your tickets to an ADA seat. And it's mind-boggling to me. I like, but why are you doing that? We have other venues who might ask them to sit in a wheelchair to take them to their seat, which happens also, I know, a lot in airports for whatever reason. Like, but no, that's not what I need. So those are some wild and interesting things that happen in real life. But no, as long as you can't require someone, you can't say, if you are blind, you are sitting in this section.
Right. Okay.
So how many people do you have on the email list, or that number?
Oh, that's a good question. I might have to come back to that. I might have to look that up and email you that information. I want to say I know it's smaller than Angie's list. Yeah, Angie York's list, not the Angie's list. Because yours is like 400 something, right, Angie?
I think it's close to, we have a couple of lists I have of all the families I work with in the state of Missouri and bordering Illinois, and then all the professionals, and then people that have just contacted me for tickets that don't belong to any of that. So and then all the organizations share. Hopefully you guys get them from someone.
I do get your emails, Angie.
And I'm always sharing your descriptive audio with both of those lists.
So our weekly email list has 181 people on it, Michael.
Okay. Because yeah, I just wonder how many others like myself want that information, just don't
Yeah.
have it.
And I'm gonna make, actually, I did, here's me, I didn't even make that note earlier. I said, yes, I'll make sure you're on the list. And then I failed to even write that down to remind myself to do that. We do have an option on our website, and it's one of those things where you'd have to almost stumble upon it to find it. But there is an option on our website that if you want to be added to the list, there is a form there you can add it to. Usually it's people that's looking for that specifically. Or just tell me, hey, we want to be added to this list. We are doing some shuffling, I guess I would say, some shuffling and some hiring. We have some new folks that are starting, and we're kind of rearranging some of our duties. So I think our social media will also tick up a little bit. And I say social media, and it really just means Facebook. So we tried a couple different things, and people always say you should do Instagram. Instagram is totally visual. Why would we do Instagram? All it is a whole bunch of work for alt text and image descriptions for us. So, I mean, unless we get a big call for everyone for us to be on Instagram, we are mostly on Facebook.
It's reaching out to the general public.
That's
I
accurate.
Suggested Instagram.
That's accurate. And honestly, it's always sighted people who ask us about Instagram. So
well, it is a younger demographic. It is usable by the blind. I don't know too many who are doing it, but it is accessible. But it is a way to get the younger demographics.
What was the one we got really excited? I think it was during the pandemic. I got real into one and was like, oh, we got to get this. And now nobody uses it, but it was really popular with people who are blind because it was all audio. Clubhouse, what was that called?
Oh, Clubhouse. Yeah.
It was popular for a good 10 minutes of life, and that was it. We didn't get it. Let's see, we've got about 8 minutes left here, right? So any other thoughts? Let me see if I made any other notes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So we do provide curb to seat service, as you mentioned earlier. And so, there is a difference between that and having a companion with someone during the evening, of course. Would it be feasible? Would it make sense to have like a volunteer companion program? Because we have volunteers. I don't want to say too many, but we have people that are just constantly saying, let me do more, let me do more. Would that make sense to have a volunteer companion program? And for example, let's say, when they're going to purchase a ticket online, if they prefer a companion, they have some way to indicate it. And we could maybe somehow find a way for ticketing so that they could include 2 tickets together and they could actually sit together for the shows.
I think, and I will definitely let Jackie and Michael answer this, but there's a place in Canada that's similar to MindsEye called Vocal Eye, no S, Vocal Eye. And they have a program called Theater Buddies, which is basically exactly that. They have volunteers, and that is what they volunteer to do. They actually, they meet at the closest public transportation drop off. So they might meet a bus stop or the Metrolink stop or whatever. But that's what they're there to do. They make sure that they get to the seat. They often, if it's a venue that has concessions, they'll often meet in advance and have a concession together, and they'll do the whole thing together. And it's a very popular program. It's one that I hope my boss doesn't find out that they have, because we could not handle doing that here, but it's a great program, and it is almost identical to what you just said. But I will definitely let Michael and Jackie put in their 2 cents on that.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think.
Yeah, I usually go with people though, but if I didn't, that would just be.
Yes, because that could be the
fun.
biggest challenge. They may be able to get there on the bus, or but navigating inside that venue,
Yeah, I like it.
And finding their exact seat. So yeah, if you have someone help with that last leg.
What's your boss's name?
Don't tell him, Jack. I would love for, I mean, for me, I love that Tyler's the person to ask that question. I love that it was a venue that asked that question, because normally that's not normally, because if that's something that you can make happen for Opera Theater St. Louis, I think that would be huge. And you, like you just said, you have a lot of volunteers and you have the manpower, the volunteer manpower to make that happen. And listen, all of your volunteers are super into opera. That's why they volunteer for Opera Theater of St. Louis. And Tyler, I'll send you a link to the Theater Buddies program so that you can see what they do and you know, the type of things that they make happen. But often those people, even though they were set up as, you know, like a volunteer match sort of situation, like this is just the person that's coming and I'm available, they become actual real life buddies, because then they want to talk about the show that they went to and, you know, that sort of thing. So
yeah, and we know
it's
done in sports venues, right? So
yeah,
why not bring it into the theater? It'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really is helpful for people who want to be independent as well in general, and maybe their friends, maybe it's not that just that they want to be independent, maybe it's that all their friends are not into opera, you know, like just because you have a bunch of friends and you want to go to the opera doesn't mean all your friends want to go to the opera. So I think it's a good way to make that happen. All right, I actually think that is a really great place to land, even though that we're 4 minutes early, because I think that was a really positive sort of thing that could happen, that could come out of this. So I'm going to get Michael on our list, make sure that Michael's on there. I'll make sure that Jackie's on there too. And actually, I'll make sure that all of you are on our list. You can feel free to unsubscribe yourselves, but if you're going to forward it to your friends, don't let them unsubscribe you, okay? Delete the unsubscribe line. Tyler, I'll send you some information about Theater Buddies. The push notifications on the app, Michael, that was something that was not anywhere on my list or on my radar. Our app is usually mostly currently for our broadcast listeners. So honestly, I have almost zero experience with the app. So I will look into that. Oh, one thing real quickly that I forgot to mention, and I think a lot of you guys, including Michael and Vanessa and Angie, are all part of the group that's called, that I can't remember. Yes. Yeah. What's it called? What's it called, Vanessa?
The Site Collective.
The Site Collective. And they're working on a calendar that will have all of the events on it. And that's one thing I have that's on me. I have not gotten with them yet to put all of our audio description of events on that calendar, and then pushing that out to everyone to make sure that that's a place where everyone can find everything. Also, MindsEye also has an outward facing Google Calendar that's on our website that has every event as well.
Oh, you just caught some in my brain there, because well, I was thinking of RSS.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have an RSS feed, that way it just shows up every new event as it's added.
Yep. So I didn't think about that either.
But the calendar, that's great. To Google or the iPhone, you know, that
Yep.
one specifically for iPhone, I can plug that in. So a lot of blind folks use their iPhones. There's some Android users, but most are iPhones. So
yeah, I have found that as an Android user, I'm always like, oh wait, what are we talking about? Show me how to do this. What is this Apple thing that you're talking about? And it is a Google Calendar, because that's what worked on our website, that was already embedded in our website, was a Google Calendar. But from what I understand, yes, it pushes through fine to your iPhone. So yeah, you can also RSS feed. Yeah,
that's a great idea. Or we have that link specifically to that to make sure that we include it.
Yes.
We share it with our, consumers, and when we actually get around to update our website, make sure that that's included so that people can get straight. Because there's a lot going on your website. There's a lot.
Yes. So. Understatement. Yes, there is a lot going on our website because of all of our different programs. So it's not, I would love to say it's all just audio description, but it's not. So I guess I shouldn't say it like that. Sorry, athletics people. So All right. Well, I thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I think it's been a really helpful conversation. Please, if you have anything else, feel free to let me know, let each other know. Also, if you're so excited that you want to do more of these today, we have another one at noon. There's one at 3. I think I actually only have one person for the 6 p.m. that signed up, so we might try to push him into another group. But feel free to come back to another one. But you guys have been amazing, and I thank you all for coming.
Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
And we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.